Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Stephen Reyes, head technician at Bellator CyberGuard. In this video, we will be talking about the MGM attack that happened in September of 2023, what really happened, what some of the lessons we can learn from this, and just some information around the attack as a whole and the attackers and kind of what they did to gain access to such a huge company and really costs this company tons of money. So let's get right into it. So first of all, who's MGM and Scattered Spider? Scattered Spider is the group that carried out the attack. It was also ALPHV, ALPHV was also involved. They kind of worked together in this attack. MGM is a large gaming company. They own tons of casinos and hotels worldwide, 31 casinos, hotels worldwide, and are worth 14 billion roughly. And they're just a large casino, really, at the end of the day, gaming company. So what happened in the attack? So Scattered Spider compromised the network on September 11th, 2023, and it was discovered September 29th, 2023. So, again, there's only so much information available on what happened and everything. From when I see these two dates, I think, okay, they probably gained access on September 11th and then carried out the attack, and there were noticeable symptoms of the attack and of the breach, compromised network by September 29th, including the slot machines being brought down, hotel keys not being able to function, different things like this that are major red flags that kind of allowed them to notice this. But they gained access and probably planned their attack, and kind of didn't carry things out for obviously a couple weeks while they already had access. They gained access through social engineering. When I say social engineering, I kind of really just mean phishing and vishing attacks. Vishing is really just like a voice phishing attack. So if you've had a phishing email where you get an email from someone kind of pretending to be someone else than they say they are and are trying to get you to take some sort of action or provide some sort of information, this is the same thing but over the phone. So what this group, Scattered Spider, did was call help desks and the casinos and essentially tricked the person answering the call into providing them access. So they managed to get around their 2FA as well. So they got them to provide credentials, pretended to be someone that obviously they would give this information to, which really shouldn't be anyone over a phone call like that. But they got the help desk employee to trust them, provide them with credentials and information to gain access to their account. Obviously, pretended to be an employee of some sort. Got this information, then also got a 2FA code of some sort, some second form of authentication provided to them as well, so that they could then gain access. This then led to the ransomware that ALPHV organization kind of took credit for. They deployed this ransomware that then led to the slot machines and the hotel room key cards not working. So again, as far as like the timeline, the engineering probably took place and these phishing phone calls probably took place on September 11th or really that day, if that's when the network was compromised. And then the ransomware was deployed by ALPHV on September 29th, which is when they started to notice all these symptoms of slot machines not working and room key cards not being able to function. This then led to a $100 million loss for the quarter. From everything I've found, it was 10 days, really averaging $10 million a day to get this sorted out. The specifics behind it, did MGM pay the ransom for them to give their data back? So it's hard to say if the MGM actually paid the ransom and paid all of this money, and that allowed them to get their data back and their machines uncompromised and their hotel room keys to work again, or if it took them 10 days to remove the malware from the system. In most cases, and from my personal perspective, it seems like they probably just paid this money to recover from this. That's kind of probably why they were attacked in the first place. Companies like this, these attackers know that they're going to be able to pay. If they got to the point where they were able to deploy the ransomware, it was probably successful in getting exactly what they wanted. That being said, as well, with the fact that the FBI, there is news around the FBI providing a ransomware tool, some sort of security tool after the fact to MGM to prevent this sort of thing from happening again. So that kind of tells you that they didn't have anything in place to recover from this at the time. But a lot of that is speculation. We can only go off kind of the information that's been released, right? But most importantly, what could they have done, right? What could have prevented this from happening? What are some of the lessons that should be learned from this? How does a huge company like this let this sort of thing happen, right? And it all starts with the employees, right? And I don't think the employees are to blame at the end of the day, right? But they obviously didn't receive significant enough training to be aware of phone calls like this, right? I think it's kind of ridiculous, personally, that a help desk of employee of this sort was able to provide access to someone, and there's no process in place clearly that's more sophisticated than this, right? The fact that a help desk employee could fall for a phone call like this from what had to have been an unverified number and just provide credentials like that without thinking twice is pretty absurd, right? There's really nothing else to call it. So, but I think that does fall on MGM for not training their employees and being aware of this sort of thing. Okta, a company that works with MGM and does some of their access control, did point this out. There is information about this out there as well, that they knew there were insufficient protocols that could lead to this sort of thing. There were concerns raised. There were people from Okta that said, there's some problems here that should be addressed, and nothing was really done. So at the end of the day, it wasn't like they were totally blindsided and unaware of this vulnerability. It seems like they were aware of the potential of this happening, and MGM just decided not to do anything about that, which again is, their prerogative, right? At the end of the day, like companies like this, right, it's all about risk management. You're aware of different vulnerabilities and you address those risks, you mitigate those risks, you implement controls for those risks, and there are some risks you're willing to accept, right? Of course, there always is. There's some things that you just have to accept. If your building is built on a cliff and you have the risk of, natural disaster bringing the cliff and the whole building down, that might just be something you have to accept. You could have the insurance in place maybe, but at the end of the day, there's only so much you can do, right? Or if you're in an area where that's hurricane prone and a hurricane could destroy your building, that might be a risk you have to accept. Of course, there's insurance and that's all great, but there's some things that you just can't control, right? On top of that, and having the employees trained in the social engineering, I think it's clear that they didn't have some sort of endpoint detection and response security software within their system to prevent malware from deploying, and specifically ransomware from deploying. These days, there's really no reason, especially a company this size, that they shouldn't have some sort of preventative software in place to prevent ransomware. There really is there's plenty of software out there. There's plenty of endpoint detection and response EDR software out there that recognizes this behavior, the behavior that ransomware takes, right? Really what ransomware does is it encrypts the data, and essentially the attacker will say, okay, your data is encrypted. We just encrypted your data. You need to pay this ransom to have it unencrypted and be able to use it again. And there is a lot of software out there. We provide a ransomware protection software. We have like a ransomware rollback tool in place that, if any of our clients have ransomware deployed on their device, we can immediately roll back the state of the device seconds, like the second prior to the attack, to the ransomware being deployed. So these things exist, and there's really, again, no excuse for MGM not having some sort of tool in place. Lastly, again, and coupled with that first bullet point, having more strict privilege and processes to gain access, there should have been some sort of more professional and strict process to follow when it comes to giving out credentials. I'm sure the call went something like, oh, I lost my password and my username, and I need this reset so I can get access and do my job, and I'm this important manager or developer or whatever it is, and I need to get this done. Please give me my credentials and my access back. And there should be a very strict formal process to follow in that situation. Not that doesn't happen in one way or the other, sure, but there should be more strict of a process than just, okay, here you go, let me just give it to you over the phone, right? So a lot of lessons to be learned here. It just goes to show that even the biggest companies, some of these most valuable companies, are prone to this stuff, and it's just important to have this sort of training and software in place at the large companies as it is any other company, right? But that's all I got for this video. Thanks for watching, and have a great rest of your day.